Okay, it is 7 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone to the planning board meeting. Would you join in a pledge of allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Pashon.
Here.
Mr. Giardina.
Here.
Mr. Kosel.
Here.
Mr. Malta.
Here.
Mrs. Malton. Here. Mr. Gaskin.
Here.
Ms. Corsi. Here. Mr. Artuso.
Here.
And Attorney Hardy.
Here.
I guess we'll set. We have pretty lengthy agenda here this evening. Nothing has been tabled at this point, so I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. First application,
Waterview Phase 3 located in the northwest corner of Willow Point Way and Nautical Mile Drive. The applicant Legacy Development Company Incorporated is requesting preliminary final site plan subdivision, EPOD permit approval, and LWRP consistency recommendation, along with a public hearing associated with the proposed construction of 6 two-story townhouse-style buildings consisting of a total of 56 residential units and 1 community center on a 13.5-acre parcel located in an MHR medium-high residential district under sections 269-11, 330-4, and 350-14 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Okay, yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Chris Nadler, General Counsel for Mark IV Enterprises. With me here today is David Cox, our design engineer from Passero Associates. Chris DiMarzo, our owner and president of Mark IV, will join us in a few minutes. He just texted he's stuck in a traffic jam. We're here in front of this board at long last. It seems like it's been a while since I've seen you all. We have been hard at work with town staff hammering out issues. But I just want to go briefly again over the project history, where we've been, where we are now, and where we'd like to go. And go over briefly some of the comments and changes we've made over the last several months. And then answer any questions. David and I are both available. As you know, decades ago, this project was approved for a 7-story mid-rise on this parcel. It was reduced to a 5-story mid-rise, and we obtained permits from the DEC for docks and moorings down on the bay. And then earlier this year, or last year, we came in for 2 3-story buildings with 90 units. We met with this board a few times, we met with the zoning board a few times, and we talked to town staff, heard from our neighbors, and reduced the project significantly to 56 townhouse-style apartments. In the fall of last year, this board declared its intent to be lead agency and commenced seeker coordinated review. And we appeared in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals and received required variances for the project, including front setback and another variance that we needed. Since that time, we've been working diligently with town staff, your town engineering staff, highway sewer department, planning department, and responding to comments about drainage, potential wetlands, stormwater management systems, dock permit conditions, which in December, Mr. Artuso spoke with DEC and realized that, or we realized that there were conditions of the dock permit that was issued, 2 decades ago, that the DEC has been renewing for us every 5 years. We're not planning on building docks as part of this application, so what's just in front of you is just the subdivision application and the site plan application. We also talked to town staff about construction phasing, worked out a detailed plan that you have in front of you, as well as various easements that the project requires. Tonight, we're seeking from this board a negative declaration of environmental significance under seeker, an LWRP, local waterfront revitalization program, determination of consistency, an EPOD permit, environmental protection overlay district permit, subdivision approval, and preliminary site plan approval, as well as final site plan approval. I believe we've worked for over a year with town staff and this board, as well as the zoning board and the DEC, and the boards have all the information necessary to issue those approvals. So now I'd open it up, ask the board if there are any questions that we're happy to answer.
Okay, well, with that, we can get started, I guess. First of all, anybody have any concerns or questions? Derek?
I'd actually like to talk to you about the dock permit. I've been reading through the permit, because some good news to review by legacy development.
Okay.
Some really requests.
Can you speak up? I can't quite hear
So
you.
DEC one is legacy development has been renewing this permit every 10 years, whatever, since it was first put in. It's done at their request, and DEC's been doing it administratively.
Okay.
And so the reason this is related directly to this project is that Appendix B of this permit clearly says that parcel 2, which is included in this project, shall be conveyed to the Genesee Valley Land Trust as a condition of the permit for the docks. And so my question to you
Okay.
is that, well, it's not only lot 2, it's also a lot for us, our road permits. I guess my question to you is that, why hasn't that property ever been transferred?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had said this earlier. We're not building the docks as part of this application.
No, I understand that,
Oh.
but you have been actively renewing the permit ever since it was issued. So you have the understanding, you know, that the property was supposed to have been transferred. It says on here within 45 days after the effective date of this renewal. That property has never been transferred in accordance with the permit.
I don't understand
So
the question.
The question is, why have you not transferred the property as a condition of this permit?
Oh, because we haven't built the docks, and we're not planning on building them. If we do go to build the docks, we'll work that out with the DEC.
If that's the point there, because as a condition of this permit, you have been actively renewing. And I think as a board, you need to notify DEC that this permit needs to be withdrawn. It is not a valid permit because if you go through with this development, you're building on a neighboring property. You're merging one of the parcels into the main, where the buildings are.
Oh, okay,
You're
understood.
subdividing the whole parcel, you're doing away with one of those parcels that you committed to transferring to the Genesee Valley Land Trust. So this permit is null and void
No, I think
from
that's,
now until the future. It has to
sorry,
go
hang
away
on,
to the
that's
future.
misleading. We did not commit to convey that to the Genesee Land Trust. We committed to, as part of a dock permit, if and when we build docks, that we'll deal with the DEC on that, but I don't want, I think that's a little disingenuous to say we've committed to convey a parcel, when that's not even a little bit what we've done.
Subject to the
If, as
terms
part of a
stated
dock
in
permit, excuse me, as
permit.
part of a dock permit, we would have to do that. We're, as I've said a couple times now, we're not building docks as part of this
I
application.
understand that, but you're making it to a condition that this permit that you have been actively renewing, you cannot meet anymore.
Understood.
Therefore, this permit would become null and void based on any action we would take regarding the parcel. The DEC must be notified that you are pulling the permit once again. Because looking through the record, this permit has been, as part of the development at the beginning, it was pulled. It wasn't going to be part of any project, and then it reappeared at some point, probably when they did phase 2 of this project. The map that we have is in conformance with what's in the permit itself. So you have a development that you've been actively renewing the permit for, on the understanding that, okay, once the docks are built,
you're to convey the property. Now you are before the board with a development that makes this permit null and void. Which do you want in the future? Do you want this development, or do you want to notify DEC that you're pulling the permit application? This permit, even renewing it.
We're here seeking a site plan approval and subdivision approval for this project. I can't stop you, Derek, from notifying DEC of anything.
Why wouldn't you notify them?
I don't understand the question.
You're
I understand your point.
Okay, so why wouldn't you notify them? Hey, we've changed our mind, we want to pull this permit. Why have you been renewing the permit? Well, you've had no intention, I guess, of transferring the property that was negotiated as part of the permit.
Again, that's a little disingenuous to accuse me of that, but I understand your point. Thank you.
I think that's, the attorney is just questioning, he's saying, do they have any intention of building the docks? And my point there would be, no. There's no intent to build the docks currently, so, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
So the
but
permit,
where's
the permit
excuse
was
me.
pulled.
Where's that coming into this if there's nothing going on with that at this point?
So this permit must be pulled as part of this project.
So can that be a stipulation put into the resolution?
They would have to make sure they follow it.
Okay, so if we put that in the
Because
resolution, would that,
actually, we should notify the DEC to terminate the permit.
okay,
as a
so,
board.
so you feel that the town should notify them of this, correct?
Of termination of the permit.
Which can be done, correct?
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
All right, so,
So in the future, it's not like they're ever gonna come back and say, we have a permit.
no,
Because this permit's not valid.
so part of the contingency on the approval could be that they notify it and the town notifies that there is no application or it's rescinded for the dock. I can't see holding a project up like this for something as minor as that. That's just my
We're
opinion.
comfortable with that condition, Derek. Thank you.
If this was just coming in, this thing has been going on, we've been beating this thing to death for ever. And somewhere along the line, I mean, it's been open, again, this is a public hearing, so if there are people here to speak, we will open it to the public.
So I guess the other object, item is dealing with the wetlands, the new wetland regulations. We do have a letter from Passer that says they want to take some pictures of it. Within the letter, they talk about doing a desktop review of the location of wetlands, which specifically under the new regulations says you can't do it. You can't rely on those mapping. So has a delineation, an actual delineation been done? And an application submitted to DEC for a jurisdictional determination.
There has been an application submitted to DEC. Nothing in the regulations says you can't do, quote, a desktop delineation. We have worked diligently with town staff, including town planning board attorney, town director of development, town planner, and town engineer and assistant town engineer on that matter. I think our most recent submission shows that there isn't a wetland potentially the location that may be identified on the EAF map or whatever the substitution of that is under the new regulations.
Yeah, the new regulations say you can't rely on that information anymore. So you say you have submitted to the DEC. Yeah, we received a copy of that submission.
I don't think you get a copy of the submission. We need some information about it. I'm sure the town has whatever we submitted.
We just get an email saying that they received it.
When was that application filed?
A few weeks ago, when the issue came up in January, right?
Yeah, probably. I don't know the exact date.
My understanding is under the new regulations, there's a transitional period. And it's only effective if an application was filed before January 1st, otherwise the new regulations apply. And like Derek mentioned, I concur with that understanding. And even if you go onto the web portal to the DEC, it says that it's only for reference and it's not comparable to an actual JD application or actual physical response back from the DEC indicating if a wetland delineation is to be occurred or not. But during the transitional period, again, according to 664.1 is a section The only time that you're granted a transition period is if you have a DC wetland permit in hand, a final environmental impact statement completed, or a site plan approval by municipality. So otherwise, you fall under the new jurisdiction requirement of applications. So you performed a site visit. Was there GPS data collected? Has that been submitted to DEC, or did you just file a JD and waiting for a response from the DEC?
So I think we can get around those details. No GPS data has been submitted to the DEC. So what the actual regulations say that took effect in January 1 is that we have the option of submitting a jurisdictional determination request. They do not require a jurisdictional determination request as part of this review. This board is tasked with addressing and evaluating wetlands, or impact to wetlands, excuse me, as part of your seeker process. But this board can do that based on New York State laws interpreted and promulgated by the court system and New York State town law and New York State seeker regulations based on the information you have. The way the regulations read, not the way the DEC keeps talking about it, but the actual regulations say, if it's a wetland, then you may need a jurisdictional determination. So it would be predicated on it being wet. So what we've shown you is that there's no area that could be a wetland.
Well, correction, that there's multiple criteria to delineate a wetland. It is not just if it's saturation. It also consists of the hydrology of the soil and the actual vegetation plantings that are existing there, as well as microbial environmental conditions. It's not just if it's wet or not.
Yes, absolutely. That's my lawyer speak, as is it wet or not? I didn't just mean is it wet. I meant, did somebody who's what's her name, environmental biologist, go out there and say, could this possibly be a wetland? And she said no. Was there delineation? No, we're not saying that there was, but that's not required at this stage. Now,
Well, I guess a point of clarification, and if you can assist me with, is if we're tasked with determining if there's a wetland or not, but information wasn't provided to justify from DEC or from a delineator that there is in fact or is not in fact wetlands out there, how are we going to make that determination without requesting JD or wetland delineation?
I could probably take the word of environmental biologist who's employed by Pastor Associates, who's professionally licensed engineer, has stamped all the items in this application. We could probably go look. Does it look like it could be a wetland? No. But I think that's self-evident. If the DEC regulations can confuse people, I understand that. But I think hopefully we've worked that out with your legal advisors and your town staff to make it clear that that's not necessarily an impediment to making a seeker determination.
I mean, I just want to disagree with that. I think it's the applicant's responsibility and due diligence to provide that information, since the applicant is requesting a secret.
Thank you.
Can something like this keep moving forward, subject to these items being resolved down the road? You agree?
Yeah, I guess that's the question, is are you willing to have a conditional approval subject to the DEC coming back with their opinion relative to the jurisdictional determination? Also, the DEC has allowed for a streamline of this approval if you have a third-party person who has an expert who has performed, which you have with Passero. So I guess the question would ultimately, the legal question, which is what I think I'm being asked, is whether or not some type of
conditional approval, condition to having that DEC review and approval, and ultimately determining, the DEC determining that delineation is not required, and that it's not a wetland. If we put that in the approval, what's your position in regards to that?
Seems that would be fine with us. I don't think it's necessary, but to move this along, of course, we'd be happy, be appreciative of this board if you would move it along like that. You know, if it's a wetland, we can't build on it. The DEC would take us to court before we got,
Sure.
you know, to the second day of construction. So that's what the DEC's enforcement mechanism is. It's not this board. That being said, if that's the condition you want to impose, absolutely.
And
That's fine.
to follow that up,
Yep.
you are seeking the DEC's determination.
Yeah,
There's the-
we've submitted for it already.
And obviously, what you just said is important for this board. You wouldn't want to build on something without getting that
We couldn't, yeah, absolutely.
jurisdictional review.
Correct.
I mean, I do, and again, I apologize, I'm new to the board. This is my second one here. I understand there's history to this project, and I understand that there have been over the years involved in this back and forth communication. I don't understand why there's a need to vote a conditional negative declaration on something that can be reached out to the DEC, has gotten clarification, and be addressed at the next meeting. If a JD needs to be submitted, or especially as us being the lead agency for this application. I don't understand why there needs to be a rush into even including a conditional portion language into it. And honestly, I'm not even sure we can include conditional approvals in a negative declaration under seeker. But my point of view is it wouldn't hurt to have a call to DEC and get that clarification prior to issuing conditions or approving a seeker process without having that in hand as the agency.
So how long would something like that you feel to resolve?
I feel like a phone call and the response can be within a month completed. A filing of the JD, my understanding now, within 2 to 3 days, you should be getting back an email saying if you need to perform delineations or not.
Well,
So if this was done along the same lines, with just making these items, we do have a few items, there's no question. But just make them subject to these things being resolved. This is, to me, this is a very small part of this whole project. The project to me is the development, the traffic, where there's a wetland, there's a puddle on the bank, I could care less, to be honest. You know, and let the DEC argue that.
But
And they can work it
again,
with them.
we're the lead agency in this. The DEC is a consultant party to us as the lead agency.
Yes?
Essentially, we're granting approval prior to getting feedback from the consultant
So
agency.
we're granting it, making it subject to them agreeing with it. If not, it's null and void.
so on January 6, 2025, the DEC responded to the coordinated review effort by the town under seeker and did not say that the jurisdictional determination would be required. It's a 9-page letter. I read it again this afternoon. So I think that's your answer. Nobody here works for DEC. They can carry their own water. You don't have to. We're going to have to deal with DEC, obviously.
Keep in mind, new regulations, the transitional period does not apply in this case. So we have to follow the new regulations since we don't meet those criteria transitional period.
Okay, we've got a long agenda here this evening, and I'm not gonna spend the evening just talking about DEC on this thing.
Well, I would,
This is, excuse me,
you know, I
This is-
understand where you're coming from, but you made a statement earlier that I think is actually very concerning. You know, DEC with its new regulations is put it prominent that they're gonna protect the wetlands of the United States. And by you, as a board member, saying you can care less about the wetlands, that doesn't fit.
Stop, Brandon.
No,
Please stop
no,
the
you-
show here.
You
Please stop the show.
made a statement The reason.
You taking it literally word for word?
Okay,
You take it-
regardless, one thing, it doesn't matter what it is.
My
The
point there,
concept of a conditional.
Derek, excuse me a second, please. My point there is simply, this is a small part of this overall project.
Yes.
They've had people survey it already. Their determination is there is no wetland there.
They have not done a delineation.
Okay, but this is something that I'm saying, let them move forward with that, let them do what they have to do, let them deal with the DEC instead of us here. Let them resolve this issue with them. We move forward with it, subject to them getting the okay from the DEC. This is no different than things we've done in the past.
I don't believe we can do conditional, because we're waiting for some more technical information. And according to like the seeker handbook, that's, you can't do a conditional seeker declaration if you're waiting for additional technical information. It specifically says in 4 or 5 places within the document that it's not allowed.
Mr. Nadler, were you?
I don't have an answer anymore. I think this board can take such action as it wants. It can condition its decisions. That's very clear. I don't think this board, if this board as a whole is comfortable moving forward, you can do so. If Derek wants additional information and Mr. Gasek wants additional information, I think they would have to convince a couple other board members that they wanted additional information as well. At this point, we would ask that you open public hearing, take comments, and move forward.
I just want to clarify, all I'm asking is for a month. All I'm asking is for a month in order to get feedback from DEC. That's all I was asking.
Okay, again, this is a public hearing, so what we'll do, we'll open it for anyone that wishes to speak. Just ask that you go up to the microphone, give us your name and address. Anyone wishing to comment on this? Again, this is a public hearing. If not,
I did have some just quick questions about the actual
hold on, let me get a
design.
response from the people. Anyone? No one wishing to speak? Okay, if that's the case, then we're gonna, at this point, close the public hearing for Waterview. Okay, go ahead, Ray. What'd you say?
I just had some couple of questions on the design. Josh, if you want to maybe pan to those, like one of the areas. At the entryways of all the road accesses, if you could incorporate stop signs. I didn't see any in the drawings. There's 2 areas that are called out for snow removal. There's concrete curbs there. Maybe do transition.
Sorry.
There's 2 areas that have snow removal indicated within the vicinity of the community center, but they have curbing in those areas. If you can do transitional curbing, or maybe remove those so that you can plow the snow in those areas.
Yep.
One of the snow storage areas on the south side is very close to a residential patio that's going to be right there. So, we usually have high mounts of snow. I just don't think that area is realistic for snow storage. It's going to be right up against the residential property there. The retaining walls used have ornamental fencing. There are a location, building 1 specifically, Josh, in the southwest. There's a 10-foot drop after that retaining wall coming from that garage. I know I'm being overly cautious, over concerning, but if you have a rolling car, will that ornamental fencing hold the car? Maybe consider using like a timber guardrail in that area, just because it's a 10-foot drop after that goes down. I was wondering, just on the grading on the northwest corner of Building 6, how that transition is happening with all the retaining walls. If we can get a clarification, just how that's all being tied in on the northwest side.
Hang on, slow down. Can we show? I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, so you're going to get a retaining wall here, but no additional grading or no additional topo to the northwest of where that retaining wall abuts those contours.
Yeah, they're tying right into existing grade. So whatever the existing grade is, that would be the bottom of the wall elevation.
Okay. And I had another comment, just if you wouldn't mind evaluating the landscaping plan, it seems that you have some prominent tree species that are going to be within your pipe network, deep roots. They're going to go right into the drainage structures and everything that you've indicated there. Just consideration given for long-term success of the drainage structures.
Where are you addressing it, in landscaping, you said?
Yeah, in the landscaping plan, there's some larger trees, like right there, PN2. There's two of them that are PN, and they're right along the line of the drainage structures. So just if you don't mind taking a look at that. I guess this is minuscule, but yeah, if you look at between building 4 and building 5, you have a garage. So somebody's going to pull out a garage at night, turn on the lights, and they could potentially shine right into the window of the second story of building 5. Again, if you relocate those trees or move them, just keep that in mind that you do, something for visual or maybe to break up the light. You have that scenario in a couple locations, even on the east side between building 4 and 3, and then also between building 2 and building 1, where you have, vehicles that are going to be exiting the garage with potential lights on. One thing to note, you have existing vegetation along Willow Point Way. Is the intention to remove that vegetation or keep it? Existing trees that are there?
All the ones that are shown are meant to remain.
Okay. There's, I believe, 2 that are in the driveway if you're removing them. And then if you wouldn't mind indicating how you're going to protect them, because there's some grading that is that's occurring there that's more than 6 inches. So it could impact, maybe consider removing them. It might damage the trees. There's existing hydrants on Martine Drive, sorry. The silt fence that you're proposing is in front of the fire hydrants. If you wouldn't mind moving those behind the fire hydrants so that they're not obscuring first responders. And then I would recommend to just add silt socks, inlet protections along all the existing structures along Willow Point Way, Maritime Drive, and McEwen Drive. Again, easier to clean a silt sock or inlet than having to re-flush the entire storm drain later on. That's all I mind for now.
You good, George? You've got all those notes?
Yep, well, you got all those in your head? Okay. The one with the fence on top of the retaining wall is the only one that I think we might have a problem with, because we've got a design going. I don't think it's gonna be easy to stop a car with anything, and if a car goes over that, we can pull them out. It's not gonna be in good shape, but I think that's the only one that I would say, could we not have that as an absolute condition, but could we explore the possibility of doing that?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anybody else, any board members,
I just have one question about the underground stormwater detention structures. I flipped to a plan that shows it. Okay. They appear to be in the road,
Yes, they are.
and so
They're
it's,
on the road.
this particular site plan, I do see the outline of the parcel, so those basins are on a different parcel. They're on the parcel that's owned by phase 2 of the project, heading down to the lake or down to the bay.
Yes.
So I guess what I don't see on here, maybe you could point it out, is the easement that would be associated with that. Similar on the other side, you said there's an easement that's for the detention basin that has the forebay and the sand filters. I would expect also to be an easement for those items.
There already is an easement in place for the sand filter.
Yes.
And the stormwater chambers, will have an easement over it. And that, those stormwater chambers are really to treat the drainage of the phase two.
Sure.
So,
Where is that easement shown, is the question?
Oh, that was a comment from, town staff, so that's being added to the plan and filed before we, get Mylar signatures.
Okay.
I believe all that. Keith, you guys, you reviewed all that, correct?
Yeah.
You guys are pretty comfortable with it at this point?
The board has received our letter, correct?
I'm sorry?
The board received
Yes,
our
we
letter,
do, yeah.
correct?
Mhm. Yep,
All that.
actually, in 3 different letters.
That's correct.
Okay, anybody, board members? Maybe?
I think just.
We've been through
sorry,
this, I
Tony.
mean, we've answered, I think, every question.
Tony, I just have one more, sorry, just because Derek brought up the stormwater. So the sand filter that's on the southwest side, I guess there's a road that's next to it. Is that, what's the anticipated rating of that road that you're proposing there? Is it HS20? Is a pumper truck gonna be able to pull onto that road to maintain potentially that sand filter, or?
So I think, it was a gravel access path, so that, trucks or whatever could get down there.
Okay. I mean, would you be able to do a vehicle tracker just to look if a bumper truck can make it down there?
I'm not sure you would want to take a pumper truck down there, just the existing path to get down there is somewhat steep.
Okay.
So I don't think you'd want to take a pumper truck down there.
So how is it going to be maintained? Just curious. What's the maintenance schedule for it, I guess, over time, since it's
So,
sand?
yeah, I mean, if they had to get it cleaned out, you would do it with an excavator.
All right, John, Mark? We've been through this thing several times on, different issues, and I missed, I think one of the biggest things was, on McEwen Drive, and I think you resolved that, you were putting some bushes along, a berm along there or something,
That's correct. We enhanced the landscaping.
to protect the neighbors on the other side.
Yes. I think it's significant that, this was a group of neighbors that, really was concerned, and now we had a public hearing that had no comments.
And, agreed, there's a lot of engineering detail and stuff from this, and that's why the town engineers have been working on this thing for several months now also, along with the applicant. I know there's, Derek, you've got issues with the thing, with the seeker and so on, with the DEC. I'm gonna propose that we move forward with this project. I want it gone and done. Whatever issues need to be resolved, let that happen with the DEC. That's where the main issues are. And I mean, this thing, when was it, January 1st, they came out with a new rule that kind of put blotches here and there and said, this is potential wetlands. So now you tell us that it isn't, and we'll get back to you in a few months. Is that basically the?
Well, it actually doesn't say that. It said, that's what everyone seems to think. It says the actual regulation says, here's some blotches. If you want a jurisdictional determination, we're happy to do that for you, and here's the process by which you can do that. But yeah, pretty much there's blotches, and I believe someone earlier today used the phrase, it's clear as mud. in terms of
Well, that's my
process.
point. And I think to this board, most of the board anyways, the whole process into that is as clear as mud. But anyway, I would like to propose that we move forward with this project and then leave the onus on to the applicant to have to deal with the DEC and any other agency. I think the town, is that correctly? Keith, Mark, you guys, you reviewed all this stuff, you're content with the engineering and
You have a letter
some
from
outstanding things? and
Tony, you have a letter from the town engineering
Mhm.
that says that we have comments that do not hold up the application. They will be-
I'm sorry, I hear
There are comments that do not hold up the
you.
application.
Uh-huh,
They will be resolved
yep.
prior to Mylars.
Okay, that's good enough for me. All right, this is gonna be a lengthy little deal here now. We've got actually 6 different resolutions to make. This first one, we might as well start with the seeker. Because we have to declare it's an unlisted action, I guess, at this point. So I'll read it out, bear with me, folks, I'm sorry, it's gonna take a little bit of getting through them, but anyways. Let's see, these are all prepared by town engineers. And so whereas the town of Webster Planning Board is considering an application for preliminary and final site plan approval and subdivision approval related to the above referenced property to combine approximately 3.7 acres with an approximately 9.4 acre parcel to create an approximate 13 total acres is re-subdivision of lots R2B and R2C plat, prepared by Pastor Associates dated July of 2024, and on which combined parcel is proposed to be constructed 5 10-unit and 1 6-unit townhouse-style apartment buildings, a clubhouse building, and associated infrastructure, as shown on the most recent site plans prepared by Pastor Associates. And all relevant information submitted at the March 4th, 2025 applications. And whereas the planning board has reviewed the short environmental assessment form, the AF, and this EAF, this is part 1, and this was prepared by the applicant, related to the application and all other relative information. This has been submitted as of March 4th. And whereas the planning board determines that said action is classified as an unlisted action under Part 617 of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the planning board declares its intent to declare itself as a lead agency under SEQR and commence coordination review, this goes back to that. I believe it was correct me, Josh, if I'm wrong, but I think it was November 12th,
That is correct.
right? November 12th of 24 is when this actually started. And along with that, we do have,
By now, you've probably seen my
the certificate to that also. And let's see. Well, whereas the planning board determines that it is the most appropriate agency for making a determination of significance, therefore, under the SEQR regulations. And whereas the planning board has given consideration for determining significance as set forth in section 617.7C1 of the SEQR regulations, and the information contained in the EAF Part 1, whereas the planning board has completed Part 2 and 3 of the environmental assessment form, whereas the planning board, under the provisions of Part 616 of the New York State Environmental Quality Review, has given thorough and comprehensive evaluation of the impacts likely to result from the proposed action. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby declares itself to be the lead agency for the purposes of completing the environmental quality review as required by New York State and the SEQR regulations. It is further resolved that the planning board has reasonably concluded that the following impacts are expected and result from the proposed action when compared against the criteria found in the SEQR section 617.7C. There will not be a substantial adverse change in existing air quality, ground or surface water. There will not be large quantities of vegetation or fauna removed from the site or destroyed. Action, there will not be substantial interference with the movement of any resident, migratory fish or wildlife species. As a result of the proposed action, there will not be a significant impact upon habitat areas on the site, and there are no known threatened or endangered species or animals or plants. C, there are no known critical environmental areas on the site which will be impaired as a result of the proposed action. D is the overall density of the site is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, and there will not be any increase in the use of either the quality or type of energy resulting from the proposed action, and that there will not be any hazard created by human health. G is there will not be a change in the use of the active agricultural lands to receive any agricultural use under tax exemptions or that it will alter or result in the loss of 10 acres of such productive farmland. At H, there will not be a larger number of persons attracted to the site for more than a few days when compared to the number of persons who would come to the site absent the action. And I, there will not be created a material demand for other actions that would result in one or more of the above consequences. And J, there will not be changes in two or more of the elements of the environment that, when considered together, result in substantial adverse impact. And K, there are no two or more related actions which would have a significant impact on the environment, and be it further resolved that based on the information and analysis set forth above and the supporting documentation referenced above, the proposed action will not result in any adverse, significant environmental impacts. This is subject to the coordination set forth below. Be it resolved further that the planning board does hereby make a determination of non-significance for the proposed action, and the planning board chairman is hereby directed to sign the short environmental assessment form, part 3, and issue a negative declaration as evidence of the planning board's determination. And that would be the motion. Need a second.
I'll second
I have a motion and a second.
Mr. Kashani.
Aye.
Mr. Malta.
it. Aye.
Mr. Giardina.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
No.
Mr. Kosel.
Aye.
Mr. Gaskin.
No.
Mrs. Malton. Aye.
Okay, and along with that, then that would be, should we put a note in there that the applicant be in contact with the DEC to resolve any outstanding issues? This is,
Are you amending the resolution?
no, I'm asking a question. If we should, I don't know. Don't have to, right? No, all right, well, we're not done. All right, that would be the resolution for the secret. I think we've got to do a subdivision approval. Dave, you got a copy of that?
Yep. Whereas the town of Webster Planning Board is considering applications for preliminary and final site plan approval and subdivision approval related to the above referenced property, to combine an approximately 3.7 acre parcel with approximately 9.4 acre parcel to create an approximately 13.1 acre parcel, as shown on the re-subdivision of lots R2-B and R2-C, plat prepared by Pastoral Associates, dated July 2024, and on which combined parcel is proposed to be constructed 5 10-unit and 1 6-unit townhouse style apartment buildings, a clubhouse building, and associated infrastructure, as shown on the most recent site plans prepared by Pastoral Associates, and all other relevant information submitted as of March 4th, 2025. And whereas the planning board has completed a formal review of the proposed subdivision and site plan applications in compliance with the implementing regulations of New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the planning board has determined the proposed development to be an unlisted action under Part 617.6 B4 of the secret regulations. And whereas on March 4th, 2025, the planning board made determination of significance and filed a negative declaration, thereby concluding review pursuant to secret. And whereas on March 4th, 2025, the planning board conducted a public hearing that was duly advertised according to law, and in which all persons interested were heard. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby approves the proposed subdivision.
Take the motion, you need a second?
Second.
A second?
Mr. Malta.
Aye.
Mr. Giardina.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
No.
Mr. Kosel.
Aye.
Mr. Gaskin.
Yes.
Mrs. Malton. Aye.
Okay, that would be the environmental Environmental Protection Overlay District, is a resolution for that, I guess.
I got it. So whereas the town of Webster Planning Board is considering applications for preliminary and final site plan approval and subdivision approval related to the above referenced property to combine an approximately 3.7 acre parcel with an approximately 9.4 acre parcel to create approximately 13.1 acre parcel as shown on the re-subdivision of lots R2B and R2C plat prepared by Pastoral Associates, dated July 2024, and on which combined parcel is proposed to be constructed 5 10-unit and 1 6-unit townhouse-style apartment buildings, a clubhouse building, and associated infrastructure as shown on the most recent site plans prepared by Pastoral Associates and all other relevant information submitted as of March 4, 2025. And whereas a portion of the project is or may be located within Environmental Protection Overlay District 2, Steep Slopes Protection District, because portions of the project site contain or may contain areas within 15% or greater slope and are located on the boundary map attached as Appendix 1 of Town Code Chapter 350-zoning. Whereas applicant has requested that the planning board issue an EPOD development permit in accordance with Town Code 350-9B2, and whereas a public hearing has been held on this matter, and whereas the planning board has considered the effect that the proposed regulated activity will have on public health, safety, and welfare, and the protection or enhancement of the fragile and environmentally sensitive steep slope areas within the town, and whereas the planning board has considered the standards set forth in Town Code 350-9D5. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the planning board does hereby grant an EPOD development permit for the project.
Okay, the attorney's just giving me a couple of things that we discussed that we should probably add in there. We can just add this into that.
You read it,
I run the EPOD.
Yeah. You want to keep this for, yeah, okay, I'll keep this for, okay, all right, never mind, that's it, that'd be a motion. Need a second?
Second.
And a second,
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Okay. Mrs. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Malta?
Aye.
Mr. Giardina?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
No.
Mr. Kosel?
Aye.
Mr. Gaskin?
No.
Mr. Pashani?
Jen, you want to do that? Local waterfront revitalization.
Whereas the town of Webster Planning Board is considering application for preliminary and final site plan approval and subdivision approval related to the above referenced property to combine an approximately 3.7 acre parcel with an approximately 9.4 acre parcel to create an approximately 13.1 acre parcel as shown on the re-subdivision of lots R2-B and R2-C plat prepared by Pastoral Associates, dated July 2024, which combined parcel is proposed to be constructed 5 10-unit and 1 6-unit townhouse-style apartment buildings, a clubhouse building and associated infrastructure as shown on the most recent site plans prepared by Pastoral Associates and all other relevant information submitted as of March 4th, 2025. And whereas the proposed project is or may be located within the town of Webster's coastal area as defined in Town Code Chapter 331, and whereas town staff has prepared a coastal assessment form on the planning board's behalf in accordance with Town Code Chapter 331. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the proposed project is consistent with the LWRP policy standards and conditions set forth in Town Code 331-4G.
Is that the motion?
That's the
Okay, need a
motion.
second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Kosel,
Aye.
Mr. Giardina,
Aye.
Mr. Malta,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
No.
Mr. Gaskett,
No.
Mrs. Maltman,
Aye.
Mr. Kashani.
Aye. All right. Slow but steady, we're getting there. Cover all the issues there. All right, preliminary. And I'm going to make a motion for a preliminary approval for the water view application. And that's whereas the town of Webster Planning Board, can you folks hear it? I don't, can you hear back there?
Barely.
Yep.
Not
Really?
well.
Really? Let me get a little bit closer, I'm sorry. Let's see, whereas the town of Webster Planning Board is considering applications for preliminary and final site plan approval and subdivision approval related to the above referenced property to combine the approximately 3.7 acres and with the 9.4 for a total of 13.1 acres as shown in the resub map on lots R2B and R2C, and a plat prepared by Passer Associates dated July 2024, and on which combined parcels is proposed to be constructed 5 10-unit, 1 6-unit townhouse-style apartment building, a clubhouse building, and associated infrastructure as shown on the most recent site plans prepared by Passer Associates, and all other relative information submitted as of March 4, 2025. Whereas the planning board has completed a formal review of the proposed subdivision and site plan applications in compliance with the implementing regulations of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And whereas the town planning board has determined the proposed development to be an unlisted action under Part 6176B4 of the secret regulation, and whereas on March 4th, the planning board made a determination of significance and filed a negative declaration, thereby concluding the review pursuant to seeker. And whereas the planning board conducted a public hearing that was duly advertised according to law and in which all persons interested were heard, and now therefore it be resolved that the planning board approve the preliminary site plan with the following conditions, and I'll give a few of those that I've got right here. Those would be the standard for preliminary and make those subject to okay, subject to all PRC comments, subject to a letter of credit posted with the town of Webster, subject to all conservation board comments, subject to Monroe County Water Authority comments, subject to the determination of the zoning board, which the applicant has received the necessary variances, address any land to be conveyed to the town if applicable, address any recent subdivision approvals of adjacent lands if applicable. All the improvements shall be constructed according to the specifications of the town of Webster. All roadway construction to be in accordance with the specifications and regulations set forth by the town of Webster. All site work is to be in compliance with the standards of the town of Webster. Preserve all mature trees on the site where possible, and mark said trees by the developer's engineer prior to the commencing of any site work. Comply with any requirements of any state, county, and town agency. Address drainage, lighting, signage, landscaping, buffering, burning, and snow storage. And let's see, the landscape, hardscape, site accessories, and associated finishes, grading design for the development must be prepared by a New York State licensed landscape architect. The final landscape plan shall bear the seal and signature of the landscape architect. Approvals are subject to the drawing number, and what is it? I lost it there.
That's C-102?
They brought it up again, C-102, and project number, well, the project number as designated. Okay, and that's it. That's motion for preliminary approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Kashani,
Aye.
Mr. Giardina,
Aye.
Mr. Malta,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
No.
Mr. Coastal,
Aye.
Mr. Gasket,
No.
Mrs. Mohan.
Aye.
Okay, we've got to do a final.
Just saying, I said C 102, maybe it should be C 204.
Yeah, there's a number on there, it's this, and the C 102 is the one we're looking at, but there's a project number. Well, here, I'll give it to you, it's 2024-3903.0002. Okay? Got it? All right, then we'll move forward for final approval.
I'll make a motion for final approval.
I'm sorry?
I'll make a motion for
I
final.
got it.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see, final approval, this is final approval for the Waterview subdivision. And this is whereas the town of Webster Planning Board is considering applications for preliminary and final site plan approval and subdivision approval related to the above referenced property to combine approximate acres. And then we don't have to read it, it's basically the same as the preliminary, I'll skip that a little bit there. You'll have a copy of it. And then whereas the planning board has completed a formal review of the proposed subdivision and site plan applications in compliance with the implementing regulations of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, whereas the planning board has determined the proposed development to be an unlisted action under Part 617, 6B4 of the secret regulations. Excuse me. And whereas on March 4th, planning board made a determination of significance and filed negative declaration, thereby concluding the review pursuant to secret. Whereas on March 4th, planning board conducted a public hearing that was duly advertised according to law, and in which all persons interested were heard. And whereas the March 4th planning board completed a review and granted preliminary site plan approval. And whereas the planning board has compared the final site plans with the approved preliminary plans, it is determined that said plans are consistent and all conditions have been satisfied or will be satisfied prior to signatures being affixed to the final site plans. That's an important part right there. So, now therefore, be it resolved that the planning board does hereby grant final approval with the following conditions, and I'll give you a few of those. And we'll make that also subject to project review committee comments. And make that subject to any parks and recreation fees that the town board would impose on this project. I don't know how that fully works, but that's up to them. And subject to all preliminary approval conditions. And make it subject to all applicable governmental fees. Subject to Department of Public Works approvals. And significant construction shall occur within 1 year as deemed by the planning board to expire on March 4th, 2026. The conditions of the preliminary and final approval are depicted on the cover sheet of the final design plans. And that's something you want to make sure you do. All the approvals are on the cover sheet of those drawings. And let's see. All right. The engineer for the proposed project shall provide a letter of certification that all proposed work was completed as per planning board resolution of final approval before a certificate of occupancy will be issued. A letter of credit to the town for the project shall include the fee for the engineer's final inspection, certification of the site. All stormwater facilities are to be constructed first. Downspouts to be connected to the storm sewers. We'll leave that actually subject to engineering approvals. That'll be part of, because I don't know how the layout is and how you guys can deal with that. And all downspouts are, I'd say, subject to resolution and final approved minutes. And approvals are again subject to the same drawing number. And that's it for final. Now, wait, before I say that's it, is there anything else that we need to put in there? Anything you feel we're missing? Huh? Nothing I can think of. Josh, do you feel anything else?
No.
You covered with it? Okay, everybody's all right with that then? So that would be my motion for final approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Kashani?
Aye.
Mr. Malta?
Aye.
Mr. Giardina?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
No.
Mr. Kosel?
Aye.
Mr. Gaskin?
No.
Mrs. Smallman?
Aye.
Okay, with that, I guess we've completed the approval process for this application. I know it's been long, it's been arduous for everyone, there's been a lot of issues. And again, I reiterate, I think the biggest thing here is DEC stuff, and it's always a big issue, and holding a project up, let the applicant go in battle. That's out of my expertise, that's for sure.
Mr. Tajani,
Yes.
quick question for you. Could I see a copy of the part 2 and the part 3 of the seeker? The completed part 2 and part 3 of the seeker?
Have you looked at the
I have it.
You got it, Judge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all very
See, I don't
much.
understand why you're so adamant and so fighting this so much.
I'm not fighting it. Your resolution said that the planning board completed it.
Yeah,
I would like to see it.
Actually,
If it's in the resolution, I would like to see
I
it.
think there's a copy of it here.
Completed by the planning board.
Somewhere in these papers I do have.
All right, let's
move on.
We go with that.
Have you got a copy of it, Judge?
Yeah, just
Oh,
provide.
you gave it to him? Okay, good. All right, with that, we're done with this application. Let's just take a couple minute break. I want to know if I picked up 9 million papers going in front of me. Just take a recess for a couple minutes, okay? No more than that.
So who's here for the pole barn on Bay Road? You.
I'll ask a question.
What are the plans
Is there
for
anyone here?
I mean,
We're your neighbors.
What do you-
Just want to know what's going on.
Who's that?
right behind it,
All this stuff.
Who said that?
458.
Is there a schedule of what
And
our
our
backyard,
lot goes
a
behind
list
it.
of,
Okay, so I haven't
Of
seen.
the agenda?
Yeah.
There's generally one on the
So you won't
first,
even
I have
be
a
able to see it. Thank you. You won't even be able to see it.
No,
Yeah, I didn't think so.
30 feet from our line, we just want, is it for business?
It's for, well, so it's for cars and so for overflow storage. So if you ever drive by my house, it always looks like there's a party. It's just for home.
Okay, got a couple kids' cars.
Kids cars, we didn't.
Easy does it.
I do have a business where I'm going to be buying a truck and having the truck at home.
Okay,
So I want to be able to put the truck
inside. Out of sight.
the barn.
Are you Suzanne?
I'm Suzanne.
Yeah, I didn't recognize you.
Yeah, I know, it's been
Been
so
a long time.
Been so long. Yeah,
Different babies.
I know, they're not anymore.
No,
Yeah.
They're not anymore. You know, so we're gonna knock down the
It's
structure
in
that's
the
there
garage.
now, which is in rough shape. And
Yeah.
you can't put a car in it.
Oh.
I've never been able to put a car in it because it's so narrow.
Okay.
So
It's on YouTube.
it'll
Town
clean
has
up.
it on YouTube, and I have it on YouTube.
From the front, it will look bigger, and we're gonna redo
But
the
the CAL
driveway,
has it
put
too.
some trees, so it'll block off the view from Del Rio.
So you're on that side,
Yeah,
not
you
Del
got-
Rio
you
side.
got-
Yeah, it's where the
20.
garage is now.
And it's 20
It's
feet from the
gonna
line on that side,
be- You know, we got a variance because it's gonna go back further.
30
But you
feet from our
won't-
line.
You won't see it.
Yeah.
You won't see it, and it's gonna clean up that, I don't know if you're, like, there's a garden there, the Oxleys had.
Yeah,
The
vegetable
Oxleys.
garden, yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't been able to maintain it for years, so that's gonna all be cleaned up.
yeah.
And I think it's gonna have a nicer look, because I'm gonna stay in the house. And I wanna be able to pass it on to the next person, it's just not storage-wise functional. You
Yeah.
know, I've been there 21 years, can you believe that? I mean, you
Wow.
guys have been there
Yeah.
how long? Longer than me.
Yeah, we've
They're 40-something.
Oh,
yeah,
so
we've
yeah.
been there since 1982, so,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, I didn't recognize you either. It's been
Yeah.
that long since that pine tree grew and I haven't seen you.
yeah, yeah.
Since all the trees filled in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know, I tried to get in touch with the neighbor, but I didn't even think about you because
I was thinking who could see it,
Yeah,
like who could see it.
we got a postcard.
Okay, I guess we
Yeah.
will start
How we do
with
it.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna be, it's usually it's gonna look like alongside
It's mostly the storage.
Yeah, and, yeah,
Trucks.
yeah, and because it's an old house, so the storage situation is pretty rough. You know, the closets are small.
True,
basements
yeah.
are I can only small. imagine. So
I've been in
it's
your
like,
house one time before you even moved.
a lot of people, yeah, have been in.
Yeah,
so-
the kitchen at that time looked like it was from the 1930s.
Well, they redid it right before I bought it.
Okay.
So it's, you know, over time we've been working on it, but it's like
All right, what do we say?
redoing the back porch
Part?
again.
Yeah.
Okay, the first scheduled item on tonight's
Okay.
agenda is the mooring and company, the salon
Motion
site.
to take place, Chef.
But that's what we're doing, so.
Ma'am,
we can show you
please.
if you want to see. If you want to see.
Oh, I saw that
Oh,
one.
you, okay.
Located at 1050 Gravel Road, the applicant Jessica Costa of Vital Signs is requesting sign approval associated with the installation of a 19.73 square foot monument sign, monument style sign on a 0.50 acre lot located in a medium intensity commercial district under section 265-7 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening. I'm filling in for Jessica.
And we didn't get to her.
You never know. My name is Mike Michele. I'm the owner of 1050 Gravel, and my office will also be in there as well.
And this is the sign you're proposing to put in, right?
Yeah, it's pretty similar, just, updated.
Is there any lights on it,
We're gonna put a spotlight, but it's not illuminated or anything like that. Yeah, just, stick in the ground symbol.
or? All right.
So this is the address on
He's got the address.
it. He's got the address on it, which is good.
Anybody, any questions, concerns? No.
It's going in the same location as the existing sign?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like it is, right? Yeah, on the side there, kind of.
Yep, right in the bed.
All right, what you gotta do a secret, Derek, you wanna do a secret on that?
The Town of Webster Planning Board considered the request by applicant Mike Muscatelli to install a 19.73 square foot monument style sign on a 0.50 acre parcel having SBL number 078.20-1-69 located at 1050 Gravel Road. The planning board classifies the proposed action as a type 2 action under 617.5C2 of the State Environmental Quality Review Regulations, and therefore is not subject to further review.
Okay, motion.
Second. Okay.
Mark, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agree with that. Motion for approval for the sign, 1050.
I'll make a motion for approval of a, what we got here, 19.73 square foot monument style sign for a mooring and company located at 1050 Gravel Road as presented.
Okay, motion is second.
Second.
Any second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're all set, good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Second item on tonight's agenda, garage replacement and pole barn located at 580 Bay Road. The applicant Jack Burke is requesting preliminary final site plan approval along with a public hearing associated with the construction of a 2,100 square foot pole barn on a 1.20 acre lot located in an R3 single-family residential district under section 269-11 and section 350-12 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
That's it.
Good evening, I'm Susanna Dutro. I am the owner of 580 Bay Road. I've been there for 21 years. And tonight we are here to, after getting zoning variance, we're here to seek approval for a pole barn to replace an existing garage. This is a registered historic property for the town of Webster. So we are looking to continue the longevity of the property so that we can stay there and make it more functional. It being an 1868 home lacks storage in every possible way. So looking for storage and also a place to house vehicles because the existing structure, I have never been able to park a car in it. Was built, it's not original to the property, I think it was built in the 50s. And so looking to house cars because we do have multiple vehicles and I will in the next year have a work truck. I typically, because we work out in the field, I have a staging and design company, decorating company. So we work out in the field, but we do use a truck that I need to bring home with me. So I'd like to house that in the pole barn so that currently they're seeing U-Hauls. I have one in my driveway right now to house that. So to kind of cleaned up appearance to the property and to improve the overall function of the property.
Yeah, you came in with this, last fall.
Yes,
With
yes.
that, and I think everybody was pretty satisfied. It's all stick built too, it isn't a pole barn, really, it's
Yes.
stick built.
Yeah, it is.
Which is nice. What are you gonna use for siding?
So this, I brought this, so it'll be like it looks now. It will be in keeping with a farmhouse. It was an apple orchard. So it will be a red, like a barn. It'll have a black metal roof and white trim. White doors with windows, so it'll have quite a nice appearance. It's important to me as a steward of the property that it looks in keeping with the property and that it's an improvement because I want to pass this on. This house has been a passion for me for 21 years and I'd like it to continue and I feel it needs that update really for us to stay in it and for it to function well for the next property owner.
Your engineer did a nice job. I think I mentioned it the last time too.
Thank you.
On the project.
Thank you. And I think it'll be an improvement for the neighbors too that can see it. They're on Del Rio right now, they're seeing kind of what looks like, an old building that really needs to be improved upon. So they're going to have a much nicer view for the neighbors that can see it. And when you drive by Bay Road, I think it's going to be a much improved look. And it's in keeping with the farms that you see interdispersed along Bay Road.
What is that stone building you want attached to the pole barn?
That was built in 1889. It was a pig house. They stored pigs in it and milk on one side. So that is almost as old as the house, and that will remain there and will be attached.
Is that used for storage now?
It's gardening. It's a gardening shed more than anything. It does have a loft in it, so there's not really much that you can put in it without climbing up a ladder, which is currently, it was built in 1889.
Are you gonna have electricity, water, or heat out there in this new pole barn?
There will not be water. There will be electricity. And at some point, we would probably add heating, but it would be like a wall type unit. But there won't be water or drainage or anything like that. It's not meant to live in it.
Okay. Again, this is a public hearing, so if there are any neighbors or anyone wishing to speak in regard to this,
We already got answers.
oh, you are?
Yeah, and I got to see them for the first time in like 15 years.
That's good. All right, board, anyone? Any issues or concerns?
Are there downspouts discharging on the surface, or are you putting it in like a dry well?
That's a good question. We can certainly do that if that's something.
I'm just asking because it seems that the barn is moving closer to the east side of the property. There's only 30 feet between the neighbor to the east. Not sure what the terrain is doing back there.
There's a berm.
Potentially discharging into their yard, or is it more sloped towards the west and not going to discharge into?
On what side of the property you're talking about?
It seems that this proposed barn is moving 30 feet further east, so there's only 30 feet between the property
Yeah,
line.
so behind there's actually a berm that goes up.
You guys
So-
are to the east?
Yes.
Yes, they are, yeah. So there is a berm that was built up prior to me purchasing the property. So it will drain out that way, but it will not be flooding into the neighbors.
Okay, no one's wishing to speak, so we'll close the public hearing, bring it up. Anybody, board members, any concerns? We looked at this Applicant did go and obtain necessary variances. Nice looking building, actually. Any questions, concerns? If not, we can move forward. You want to do something?
Yeah, just quick clarification for applicant, is it really Susanna Dutro for this, as opposed to Jake?
I'm sorry.
The applicant, should I really say Susanna Dutro, or?
Jack actually did the initial application. I've been involved in meeting with the planning committee, so I apologize if that, I could be added to that.
Oh, that's fine.
Yep, yes, it is my
Pretty sure you got the right name you
I
want.
thought.
Town of Webster Planning Board consider a request by applicant Jack Burke and Susanna Dutro to remove an existing garage and replace it with a 2,100 square foot pole barn attached to an existing structure on a 1.20 acre parcel having SBL number 063.11-1-89 located at 580 Bay Road. The planning board classifies the proposed action as a type 2 action under section 617.5C2 of the state environmental quality review regulations and therefore is not subject to further review.
Okay, need a second for the motion?
Second.
Have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion for the approval for it. We can make this, it's okay with everybody, we'll just, I mean, we know what the situation is. It's conforming to pretty much all the requirements of the zoning ordinance, chapter 350. I'd make a motion that we just enter that in without going through the whole thing. Did it conform to chapter 350-36 regarding accessory buildings? When it falls, everything's falling within the category of that, the elevation, pools and so like that. I think that's simplified. I'll make it once in significant construction within 1 year. Okay. All right, that's a motion. We need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're all set.
Thank you for everything.
Good luck.
Next item on the agenda, McAlpin Industries located on Publishers Parkway. The applicant, Matt McAlpin, is requesting preliminary final site plan approval and special use permit along with a public hearing associated with the multi-phase development totaling 300,000 square feet. First phase totaling 1,200 square feet of light manufacturing on a 25.65 acre parcel located in an OP core area, North Office Park District, under sections 269-11 and 350-21 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Good evening, Mike Ritchie from Costage Engineering, with me Matt McAlpin Industries. My board is a little bit too big, I apologize. That's obnoxious. We were here in front of this board back in January, sketch plan review. We got good feedback from the board. Since then, we applied to and obtained a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have received comments, actually 2 rounds of PRC comments, and plans have been revised based on those comments. We've submitted a traffic study as well as architectural elevations for town review. At this point, it's our understanding that this project will be considered a type 1 action under seeker. So we're here tonight requesting that this board declare their intent to be lead agent under seeker so that we can kind of continue this process. But with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that this board may have.
Anybody questions? Go ahead.
I got some, sorry. So, just real quick, February 24th, we got a letter from Monroe County Planning, section 239M. One of the comments was with regards to, again, ETC, a JD, that there's potentially state regulated wetlands on this. Have you filed?
We did. We filed on January 16th.
Okay.
They have 90 days to respond. Again, not asking this board to do anything they're not comfortable with. you know, the old maps that are now not to be used did not indicate any wetlands. The new informational maps do not show any wetlands on this property. It's our hope, belief that wetlands will not be present, but yeah, we did submit and hope to have that hopefully by April for the town review.
I had a question about, this would be on the site or utility plan. Is the hot box that's out on Hard Road, is that existing?
Yeah, that's the existing for U of R. We're coordinating with Matt, the architect. Obviously, it's our understanding this is going to be outside, and the next plan we submit will show the enclosure, similar size of what's out in front of U of R right now. We're just coordinating that, but it'll be the standard kind of steel, metal, enclosure. We'll make sure that's on the next set of plans.
So you're gonna have a hot box in addition to the one that's out there?
Yeah, because the one out there is for the U of R facility, and it's, two properties, two services. So this will be a combined service, fire, and domestic service, which will provide for hydrants and sprinklers.
Okay. In the back of the proposed 120,000 square foot, you have a swale that goes to the northwest.
Yep.
To what seems to be like a future phase pond or stormwater practice. Is there a reason that that pond is not being constructed now and then built out to accommodate any of the stormwater that is sheet flowing off of the, the back area behind the building into that swale that then goes north?
Yeah, and I think it was a kind of a phasing type thing, and I think it can be built now. Drainage currently, it kind of funnels back towards publishers, but there's not a real defined flow path. So it's our intent that drainage in that northern area will continue to kind of sheet flow over to publishers. But if it's the board's intent that we kind of solidify that and maybe push it there to a more dedicated path, we can look to do that in the first phase.
I guess my question is the stormwater treatment of the impervious area that's being contributed to that north. How are you addressing the RV?
Yeah, yes. So there's a bioretention along kind of the future north area. So the first phase on that southeast corner, we're proposing the main stormwater management pond, which provides water quality and peak rate control for the whole site, full build out, 300,000 square feet. And then there is a bioretention, a large bioretention in the parking area for phase one. And then we are proposing another bioretention to the north of the future loop road. That bioretention was intended to be built out in future phases, and that would all be connected and tied back in with our publishers.
I guess, how are you capturing the back portion of the...
Oh, the back, directly to the west?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a swale that actually pulls drainage down, back along, and into the stormwater pond. There's kind of a break back there. There's a break kind of at the north end of the proposed building, and then it kind of funnels back to the north. So there's a break where, I guess if you look north-south, kind of where the cursor is, from there it'll break back south into the stormwater pond, and then the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I had
So the
a
majority
small
goes
11 by 17 to look at, so I couldn't see the actual contours on that.
Gotcha.
Okay. This is more of a egress question. I noted a couple of egress doors that have egress doors have concrete landings, but a sidewalk should be provided and maintained for emergency egress. So you have, door opens, you have a concrete pad there, but in the wintertime it's going to be snowed in.
Yeah.
Is it a way to do just a sidewalk out to an area that,
Yes, we can look to add that in.
Downspout locations on the structure, I didn't see them on the elevation views. Are they surface discharged or are they being
I
tied?
think it's going to go to on a storm manifold and then into the pond. Yeah, so we're not looking to kind of splash block that out.
So this is a storm manifold?
Yes,
and ground
yes,
system?
yeah. We're, again, coordinating with the architect on exactly how those are shown, but for the next submission, we can show an under drain line that connects to the pond.
Okay. The back garage has two retaining walls, the detail indicated under drains.
Yep.
Are those being tied to the foundation drain? Or?
Yeah, those, I think we're actually showing that being tied into the sanitary, or sorry, it runs right now along the north side and into the storm line back then.
Okay, so you're tying it into the storm line?
Yep, yeah, and then obviously we'll have to coordinate in future phases and tweak that when additions are made. But that was the easiest way to do it.
Are you gonna have in the future, maybe, this is for the water line, sampling type locations identified?
Yeah, and we'll coordinate with the water authority. I believe the most current plans have the sampling disinfection caps at the connection and at the kind of the connection to the building to make sure that that is per water authority standards.
Okay. I think this would be one of my last questions, or two of the last questions, sorry. I noticed the combined system coming towards the proposed manufactured building, then you have a private hydrant, then the combined system continues into the building, which I'm assuming is sprinklered. Just any concern with there being a hydrant, essentially the first hydrant that the fire department could tap into and draw from water that could be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we'll look to make that separation to the domestic, make that, I guess, T prior to that first hydrant, so that there can't be cross-contamination.
Okay. And then just a quick question on the phasing. The cover letter indicated that the third final phase would be 2030, but the EAF indicated final phase being 2028. Is it 2028 or 2030?
I think it all depends on the market. I think the way things are going now, it's closer to 2028. And again, we're doing this in an intent, to get seeker done for the entire development, do stormwater design for the entire development, not piecemeal it and come back, 2 more times, to go through the process, but to design the whole site once.
That's all my questions.
Is this the main entrance for this, is this gonna be off a hard road?
Correct, yes. Yep.
Eventually, if you do more expansion, will you have a driveway going out to Publishers Parkway?
That's not our plan now, and a traffic study was done with all the traffic going out to Hard Road, and that traffic study didn't recommend any improvements, with the exception of maybe adding a left turn lane, kind of in that little gore stripe area that exists right now, but no other improvements. They said the level of service out at Hard wouldn't be impacted, and I think we had mentioned the last time we were here that the shift that these workers do is kind of offset from most rush hour traffic.
Okay, any other questions? Actually, there is no approval.
Oh, we understand that. Yeah, we understand that. This is kind of the seeker process. You need, to declare your intent to be lead agent.
Yep.
And get that notification sent out.
So with that, we should go ahead.
This is the public hearing, do we have to open it to the public at all?
It's not a public hearing.
Yeah.
It says in the agenda.
It does?
Yes.
Oh, you're right, it does. I didn't see that. Okay. Anyone wishing to comment on this? We'll open it, but there's no one wishing to speak? Okay, we'll close the public. I won't close the public hearing because you're going to be coming back. We'll leave it open. Just close it to the seeker, that's it. Okay? All right.
Whereas the town of Webster Planning Board and Planning Board considered the request by applicant Matt McAlpin and McAlpin Industries to construct a multi-phase development totaling 300,000 square feet of light industrial manufacturing on a 25.65 acre parcel having SBL number 079.06-1-32.123 located in OP Core area North Office Park District. Now therefore be resolved that the planning board determine that the action is a type 1 action based on the following criteria. Number 1, 617.4 B6(1), a project that involves the alteration of more than 10 acres of land. And number 2, 617.4 B6(5), it's in a city or village having a population of 150,000 people or less, in a facility with more than 100,000 square feet of gross floor area. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board determine that the action is subject to coordinated review pursuant to part 617.6B of seeker, and that it is the most appropriate agency for making the determination of significance. The planning board therefore intends to designate itself lead agency for the proposed action.
Okay, we have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
Have a second. There's two.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Giardina?
Aye.
Mr. Mashani?
Aye.
Mr. Malta?
Aye.
Mr. Kursel?
Aye.
Mr. Gaskin? Ms. Martin? Aye.
Resolve that. Now, one thing I think, Josh, your elevations, when you come back, show some, some elevation sheets. And you got that little thing there that is, something significantly sized. And I'm gonna recommend, landscaping. I would also, the front there, across your front, something a little unique. I mean, I don't wanna use the word brick, but something that's across the front to make it not just a pole barn looking building.
And, maybe we'll work with Matt and the architect. They're proposing kind of a stone veneer, stacked stone veneer along the main entrance.
Yes.
Not along the entire building, but along kind of the main entrance
Wow.
along there. But, I mean, if this board has,
Why not the whole, that's your focal point?
yeah, we can.
It's not a long-term focal point. Phase 2 would have more of an administrative office in the front lobby, and that would have more of a focal point that you would see going down that access road. The front entrance that you're seeing on the sketch plan right now it's not visible from the road, and it's not going to be the long-term main entrance.
Okay.
But we want that to look nice and at least attract visitors to, that is the entrance point compared to the rest of the building.
This is one of the requirements, is what we look for.
Yep. And,
It's in the guidelines.
we can look to expand on what we've done to make it more, what we're looking for.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, we've got one more, right?
Two more.
Yeah, okay.
Next item on the agenda, solar PV located at 1822 Lake Road. The applicant, Steve Mikolajczyk, I hope I pronounced it right, is requesting preliminary final site plan approval and a public hearing associated with the installation of a 24.56 kW AC ground-mounted solar PV system consisting of 64 solar panels and 64 microinverters on a 5.0 acre lot having zero number SBL 03703-1-331, located in a large lot single-family residential district under sections 155-5, 269-11, and 350-13 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
You're close. Steve Mikolajczyk with Aces Energy. This is kind of just a change order from a project that was approved a couple of months ago. The homeowners have just decided that they want to move the location of the panels. The number of panels is the same, everything's the same, except for the fact that instead of one long array, they're doing two shorter arrays. Other than that, all the design and everything is the same. It's moving farther south, about 100 feet or so.
Now, what's that form of D line? So that's all, it's all one parcel, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any big issue with it. It was approved before, you're just modifying it, changing the location of it?
Correct.
It's still not visible from the road.
No, that's
Correct, it's hundreds and hundreds.
half a mile back from the road.
So, the Lochner family and the Stern family, are they aware of the panels going where they're being proposed?
Stern is they're the.
Stern is sorry. Okay, Lochner, the one on the south side.
Yeah, we sent letters out as part of the previous.
How close is their residence? Is it inside of a potential glare?
It's nowhere close.
Nowhere close.
To any structure.
Okay, because again, it's a preliminary approval, if there's anybody who don't think anyone's here to discuss it, well, we'll just get about it here.
You just asked if there was.
I did. I did. You probably should, I guess, read through the secret. Or is the other one still
I
existing?
think the home still existed, it's still.
It's probably still adequate, right? Would you,
It's fine.
you agree? Okay, then if that's the case, then we'll move forward with the approval. So, I'll make a motion for the approval of the solar panel thing. I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed solar PV located 1822 Lake Road and make that as presented.
One second. That we need to add a condition because it will require them to go back to the zoning board for the proximity to the front lot line. So that should just be added as a condition.
Yeah.
To the front lot line, what is it, 60 feet, 50?
Well, because it's Lake Road, it's, I believe, a 70-foot front setback, even though this parcel technically doesn't front on Lake Road. But it is scheduled to go back to the zoning board next week.
Then we can make the approval, make a motion to approve it and make it subject to them obtaining the necessary variance.
Right.
Okay? All right, that be a motion, need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Last scheduled item on tonight's agenda, Ideal Food Manufacturing, located at 999 Pitcher Parkway. Applicant Ben Stroyer with Ideal Manufacturing Incorporated is requesting sketch plan review associated with the proposed expansion of a manufacturing facility on a 10.30 acre lot located in an office park district under sections 269-5 and 350-21 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jerry Goldman. I'm the attorney and agent for Ideal Manufacturing and its related real estate entities, Pitcher Parkway Properties, LLC, and Bluff Drive Partners. As long as everyone is up here, I think I will introduce everyone who is here. And we have with us Lee and Matt Stroyer, who are the second generation, if you will, of the business, as well as Ian Kutchman from McMahon LaRue, who is the project engineer. We did provide a letter of intent on January 27th. We are here this evening for concept review, which is an interim step along the way. We have already gone to the town board, and the town board has granted us authorization to come to the planning board on this concept review. Ultimately, we will go forward and do full preliminary and final plans for this particular site. And as a part of our application, we're requesting a couple of interpretations, and those interpretations are designed to try to keep as much of this process with the planning board going forward. If you've taken a look at the letter of intent, our third request has apparently already been addressed by the staff comments, so we will, the PRC comments, and we'll talk about those in a second. But apparently it has been determined that the planning board will handle the special permit for this application. Let me give you a little bit of background in terms of what we're talking about. Ideal Manufacturing is a light manufacturing business that deals with the construction right now of high-capacity helix piles, which are a necessary foundational block for building construction. The Ideal Manufacturing story is a nice story. Ben Stroyer, who is the father of these two gentlemen, started out in this business in general contracting, and then they moved forward to actually create and obtain 19 patents for specific manufacturing processes. The building that we are talking about that is currently occupied along the Pitcher Parkway frontage is what many people who have been in town a long time affectionately refer to as the Jostens building. It used to be the people that did yearbooks, class rings, and the like, and note the nod. And that's probably why the road going in was actually named the way it is. I mean, we have nice creative history in town of naming the roads after the uses. Publishers Parkway probably had something to do with Lawyers Co-op, if I would imagine. I really don't remember myself, but this particular Picture Parkway probably dealt with the fact that it was a yearbook company that started out with an approximately 60,000 square foot building on the site. The original property, which is owned by Picture Parkway Properties, an Ideal, is a 7.8 acre parcel which fronts on Picture Parkway, on which there is currently the 60,000 square foot building. Over the course of time, the Stroyer family has obtained property going all the way south to Document Drive, basically 2 parcels, which is a 7.8 acre parcel and 3.57 acre parcel. What they are proposing to do is to do a 21,000 square foot addition to their existing building, the 60,000 square foot building. Also construct to the east of that an 11,400 square foot processing building, but then add 3 buildings at the far end of the site, at the southern end of the site, being a 10,000 square foot office building, a 5,000 square foot training building, and an 11,400 square foot flex building, which will essentially capture, if you will, the overall use within within what will ultimately be a campus. This is in the OP Core North District. Manufacturing, light manufacturing, is a special permit use within the district. We are requesting that you take a look at a couple of interpretations relative to the site. One deals with the fact that as a part of their operation, there is a necessity to have some materials outdoors, and there's always a question of how we define the outdoor staging, if you will, of materials. We have a code provision which talks about outdoor storage, but there's no definition for outdoor storage in the code. So we don't have it. And also there is a question as to whether that relates to outdoor storage as a principal use or as an accessory use. It's clearly accessory to the use, and the outdoor staging, if you will, is for temporary storage of materials coming in, going out, and to that extent, we consider that to be the same or similar to the use of the property under the code, and therefore should be permitted as part of the planning board's jurisdiction. We also talked about and have requested, I think this is more in the purview of town staff in dealing with this. The code provides us a 45,000 square foot limit on the size of manufacturing buildings. This is already 60,000 square feet. We're talking about a 21,000 square foot addition, and I'm not sure whether the 45,000 square foot limitation should apply to a building which already well exceeds that, and probably exceeded it from the time the code was actually created, and whether we would need any sort of relief from the zoning board. Again, our intention is to try to keep the rest of the review of this project with this board, if at all possible. We have received comments from the PRC, which I believe the board has received as well. I'm going to run through them at this point. The first one talks about the need for the special permit from the planning board, and we understand that, and we will be making formal application in that regard. With regard to engineering at this point, in terms of stormwater quality management, that's currently under design. Conceptually, the engineers have have indicated that we have sufficient room and sufficient area to provide for stormwater quality management on the site, and that will be part of our preliminary plans and preliminary details on the site. Second comment says that wetland delineation will be required. Obviously, you had some good, robust discussion, if you will, on wetland delineation already. At the time of the early development of this site, there were identified federal wetlands. We had an outside consultant who dealt with that. We are well within, and had a JD, we are well at the federal level, we're well within our situation on that one without the need of anything more than a nationwide permit. But we are going to go back to that consultant and review the new rules and new regulations that are involved. You've heard a lot of stuff that's gone on, and January 1st really is a watershed. We are considered to be, oddly enough, an urban area for purposes of the wetland determination. So that puts us in a category where we're no longer subject to what was a 12-acre limitation or a need for a 12-acre area for the state to obtain jurisdiction over wetlands. They'll be doing that on a much tighter basis, but we'll be reviewing what will be necessary under the new regulations to make sure that we are in compliance. The highway department had some comments, and the highway department is one of our neighbors. As I'm sure you all well know, at the end of Picture Parkway is the highway garage and highway facility for the town. So in addition to dealing with it as as a reviewing agency, they're also taking a look at it as a neighbor. And they talk about the existing parking in the front of the public right-of-way. Obviously, as we more fully develop the site, we will be able to better control how we deal with all of that, and we will be reviewing that. That's comment number one. Comment number two is one that we will be discussing more at length with the highway department and with town staff relative to the road itself. It is the strong desire of the Stroyer family and the business to maintain the road which would connect Picture Parkway and Document Drive, servicing the site as a private road. And we're going to try to see what we can work out relative to that issue. But again, we're still a concept. The concept is to have that road connection going north-south between Picture and Document. With regard to the sewer situation, sewer connections, we know that that there is a sewer easement at the front of the building, and that we will be dealing with this as an overall project. This is not coming in as a phase project, if you will, at this point, but it could ultimately be divided into phases. But we are talking about trying to re-subdivide and combine all of this into a single lot. So our request is that this board make the interpretation that our outdoor staging is permitted on the site without need for any relief from any other board, and similarly for you to consider whether an expansion of the building itself, which already is above the 45,000 threshold, would require relief from the zoning board. Talked a lot, fairly took a breath. With that, I don't know if anyone else on our team has anything to add to this at all at this point. We would like to obtain as many comments and as much comment as we can from the board so that we can move ourselves forward in this process. There's a lot of excitement on the part of IDEAL in terms of trying to increase our footprint, if you will, and to try to stabilize their situation within the town of Webster. So,
Jerry, I know earlier when you guys were in, it was thought to maybe question the neighbors. You've done that, I believe?
Mr. Stroyer, I've been told that Mr. Stroyer has visited all of the neighbors on the Hard Road frontage. It appears we may have a neighbor.
That's what I was just looking at.
And I was not involved in that discussion. Ben is not here tonight, so I'm really not sure. My understanding is that he had not really received any opposition, if you will, to the concept and the idea of trying to improve the property. There is some separation. I can't see whatever may be up on people's screens, but you can see that there is some separation. Oh, there we go. Thank you. There is some separation between the residences and the neighbors. There's intended to be an enhanced landscape buffer in that particular area, and our clients are, of course, willing to continue to engage with neighbors on any questions they have.
I believe through there you also had, I think it was discussed to put a swale through there too? Drainage swales going in the back there?
Relative to, when you say swale in the back, you talking
along the property line?
Basically
where the trees are there, yeah.
So there's an existing creek.
There's a creek.
That's an existing.
That's there, that's still there.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
still there.
that's what I was referring to. All right, okay. All right. So your other question was, is this a staging area or is it a
storage area?
Storage area. I don't see it any different than, I look at it, you can look at it any way you want to look at it, I suppose, but I look at it as it's a staging area. You're not keeping things, you're moving things along from there.
And the fact of the matter is that the code has no definition of storage, so we really are kind of have our hands tied relative to trying to interpret that, because there's a continuum between what may be staging, what may be storage, and everything else. But without taking Mr. Ciardi's role in raising this question, one of the legal tenets is that interpretations, if they're vague, are supposed to be interpreted in favor of an applicant. So in the absence of a definition, I think that we have at least an ability to take that first step and to give you our perspective in terms of what it should be.
Isn't the bus garage right down that street?
Yeah. It is. It is.
That's pretty much outdoor storage.
That it is.
Right.
That it is.
And the town garage?
Yeah, they don't have to play by our rules, yeah. Well, at the end of the document, we're the school district. At the end of picture, we've got the town. I mean, we're talking about major outdoor uses in the neighborhood.
Right. So it's not anything totally different.
Correct.
In the neighborhood.
Correct.
And I think that as long as you do heavy buffering behind the houses on Hart Road, that would be acceptable.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I don't see any dock doors.
For
Raw
which
material,
building?
is there a raw material that is brought in that, with whatever you manufacture?
I'm not sure of the design of the building. Right now, how do you get stuff from inside to outside?
What about 6 overhead doors?
There's 6 overhead doors. Are they on the south side of the building right now?
We have one on every side except for.
Why don't you come up, Lee, and introduce yourself and.
I'm the kid in the back. There you go. So I'm Matthew Stroyer.
Yeah.
We have right now we have overhead doors on every corner of the building except for the one facing Picture Parkway, the north side of the building.
So how many trucks with this addition is anticipated?
We don't anticipate that initial phase that it's going to change traffic at all.
So, I guess a question on my part, if maybe we could have some legends on this plan and some call-outs on the square footage of the buildings and what's proposed on each one of them, that can assist in just the communication of this. So the addition on the south side is how many square feet? And the purpose of that is just additional internal manufacturing or internal storage?
That's internal manufacturing, I believe, and it's 21,000 square feet
Okay.
of addition onto a 60,000 square foot, roughly 60,000 square foot building.
Okay. The proposed facility to the east, assuming that's 18,000 square feet, what is that structure?
The building right along the same plane over there is a processing, I think termed a processing building. I don't know if you want to speak to.
Yeah, it would just be like an outdoor area where indoors, but right now we do all the stuff in our main building, and it would just be an additional manufacturing space in a separate building. So we'd bring our pipe and plate in there to cut it.
I'm assuming what's in the gray to the south and east, is that all additional outdoor proposed storage area, like laydown yards, or is that potential trucking parking? What are you looking to do with the additional impervious area that's going to the south and the east there?
Yeah, mostly laydown yard. The only other part is the road that would go through. And then that slightly darker area is like a truck loading area, so the trucks would pull off to the side of the road there to get loaded and then pull back out. The idea is to get truck traffic off of Picture Parkway, so they would come in Dockman Drive, drive through our property, get loaded, and pull out on the Picture.
The material stored currently outside, any kind of chemicals or anything that could leachate into the ground, be impacted by rainwater or anything like that? Is it primarily just steel?
Yeah, just raw carbon steel, yeah.
One good thing is always maintain neat and clean there too. It's all organized.
So what, the image we're seeing in the background here is your existing operation, aerial photograph?
That's right, yep.
There hasn't been any comments you received from the public or the towns received from regards to storage you have right now?
Not that we're aware.
I know you're here, you waited all this time. Would you like to say something? It's not a public hearing.
Yeah,
You're more than welcome to.
I would. Do I
That's
look
okay.
there?
Yeah, go to the microphone, just give us your name and address.
Here.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry. And I apologize if you might have said some of this. My name is Samantha Candle. I am the homeowner of 816 Hard Road. As I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, the people that are affected, the other families, we're just like 12 families, but just because I'm the only one here doesn't mean I'm the only one that cares. I met some of my neighbors for the first time. They were in the back, but they couldn't stay up this late at 810 Hard Road, and I spoke with my neighbors at 818 Hard Road before coming. We did positively receive the owner when he came by, and he showed us some version of this. And he was very cordial, but he also kind of made it seem like this was a very distant thing, may or may not happen kind of a thing. So now that people have had time to think about it, some of the things that we're concerned about, what I'm really concerned about is there are a lot of young children in these houses now. I've been a homeowner there for 5 years. And in the time that I've been there, the houses around me have turned over, and a lot of young families, growing families, a lot of children under the age of 10 live in there. I have 4 children under 10 myself. The traffic in the morning, I know you're going to do traffic studies and stuff like that, but we just added the medical building that, kind of off Hard Road. There's the other project we heard about earlier today, now this, with, I'm assuming, increased trucks eventually. It's already a nightmare in the morning. I've been in an accident on the way out of my driveway just because of the school traffic. There's the buses coming out and in multiple times a day. It's not just the schools across the street. All the buses that go to the Clem South and Clem North go by there too. My children's school bus has been in an accident out there. There's just a lot of traffic already. And I worry about the kids walking, playing in the yard, you know, those kinds of, there's gonna be a lot more big trucks. The other thing that the neighbor at 810 asked me to speak for, they're watching on YouTube at home now, was the noise. It's already a noisy site. I will say that we brought this up when whoever came to our house, and it does seem like it got a little bit quieter at night. But sometimes, it sounds like you're dropping like the steel pipes from a great height, and I don't know if there's like a way to move them quieter, at least at night. With all the young families and stuff, it's sometimes hard. You can't have your windows open in the summer, you know, that kind of thing. It's very loud, you can't have company, you can't have a barbecue in your backyard, because it sounds like you're in an industrial zone, which, I don't know. I knew when I bought this house that eventually it probably would get developed, and it could be worse, but I don't know, I just still am a little, like, worried, I guess, about some of these things. So.
How many, are those existing, those trees that are along that property line now, Jerry, or anybody know?
No, there were a bunch of ash trees, both back there and in that little narrow strip along my house. They came down and cut all the dead ones, which was good because we were all worried about the safety of that. That reminds me of one other thing. I was hoping that maybe they could clean up that area in between where you're at right now with your, that's still all just full of downed trees and rubbish.
In the empty
Yeah,
area?
and even way before that, it collects garbage in there. I don't like to look at it, so twice a year I go out there and pick up all the garbage. I don't know where it comes from, but it like flows in there. I think there's probably a rodent problem with all the downed. My cat likes it, but I don't, so it's just another like small thing. I do think they have a right to make money and use their property, but I just want them to be kind and respectful and, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, one of the things can be done as far as if you're considering, you know, the noise and stuff, is that can be mitigated with some landscaping and stuff. They're showing some, we don't know how much, but this is just a sketch right now.
Right. Yeah.
And when they get a final, you know, a preliminary drawing, it can show adequate to, you know, do some of the sound, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure enough, thanks for coming up.
We just have a couple of comments, you know, on Document Drive with the bus garage there every morning and every afternoon. You'll have over 100 buses going out of the garage there to the schools around Webster. So that road is very busy. And also being by the highway department, we have a leaf pickup in the fall there, and the leaves are stored at the highway department. And about every 3 weeks, they go around, they turn the leaves over, so that afternoon you have a very organic smell.
Where's our mulch pit, right?
It's not just for like 15 minutes in the morning, it's for like an hour and a half in the morning and the afternoon, because the schools are at different schedules.
Yeah.
It seems like all day long sometimes, but.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Is this business, is this a one shift or a 3 shift operation, or?
2. Yeah, 2 shifts right now.
They started at what? Start.
Yeah, 6:30 a.m. and then B shift ends at 11:30 p.m.
So when you're working the night shift, they're not doing, as she just spoke, they're not dropping level.
Yeah, we have told them multiple times to keep it quiet. We have tried to enforce it multiple times with our employees, just telling them to keep it quiet after 8 p.m., but I can do a better job of that. And
Oh, that would be something maybe possible.
Yeah, B shift is quite a bit smaller as well. It's a lot less employees than A shift, so.
Okay.
Do you have trucking operations during B shift as well, as in trucks pulling in and pulling out?
They would maybe pull in, but no unloading or loading.
Do you guys work on weekends at all?
No, not recently.
Okay. What's your next step now? Just move forward and...
Well, our next step right now is that if we get clearance, question becomes what if anything goes to the zoning board and what do you keep here? We've requested 2 interpretations. As far as I know, our site plan itself doesn't require any variances. It's just a question as to whether the outdoor staging is something which would be handled as something which is same and similar as the existing use, and the question of how we deal with the expansion of the building. I know Josh has a viewpoint on the expansion of the building, so I don't want to preempt him from commenting if he wants to. But, you know, if we get interpretations the way we are looking for, we keep it all here. If not, we're going to the zoning board. But we need, from here, we go into full design, we go and analyze wetlands, we go and analyze all those other elements that we need to do to have a good preliminary submission to deal with seeker and everything else on this site.
Okay.
The only building is 45 square foot, what is it, 1,000 square feet would be the building?
Correct. The larger building right now is a 60,000 square foot building. We'd be talking about adding 21,000 square feet to it. Everything else is well under the 45,000 square foot threshold.
Okay. So that, I guess, we need variance for that, right?
Well, yes, the town's position is that the building expansion would trigger the need for, essentially, there is a provision in town code, an expansion of a non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming structure. So I think that portion is clear. The outdoor staging, as Mr. Goldman mentioned, we do not have a definition of outdoor storage, so.
My interpretation of that would be that it's a staging area. It's no different than the highway department, or like Dave says, the school bus.
Okay.
It's a staging area. I don't know, anybody else, your opinion on that? Give them a consensus, maybe eliminate the zoning board if possible.
I agree.
Present?
I would say let the zoning board weigh their opinion on that as well. I mean, the difference here between school buses and highway operations, again, is the use of the material, especially for public good here. This is specifically business, and this is raw material that is then also being manufactured, and then you have something potentially staged outside that is then going to be loaded up and sent off. So I can relate to the difficulty of determining whether it is staging or if it is storage, but it sounds like we have to go to ZBA.
So your opinion is it needs to go to the zoning board. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. How is this like pipes or whatever that you're storing outside or something? Is there, I mean, this is a neighborhood now, there's kids around. Once the stop kids come in and they're, like on weekends or at nights, they're playing on this stuff that's staged outside.
John, the stuff has been there for 15 years.
It's nothing.
Okay, we're gonna have a lot more of it though, obviously.
I'm ready for that.
So you're lacking the two definitions or the one definition?
I'm sorry.
For the definitions you're looking for, is it just
Yeah.
for storage or for the staging?
Well, our view is that it's staging, and therefore the planning board should take hold of that, and there's no need to get the zoning board involved in that issue. Clearly, it looks like we are going to the zoning board relative to the building addition, and if that is the case, we would request that this board consider a recommendation in favor of that when we, at this point, after the concept review, because what that does is that it increases the amount of area which is inside. Also, visually, it's not obtrusive because it is all right behind the existing building. It's not like we're expanding the visual footprint of it.
Is there a neighboring community that has a definition?
There are. There are lots of codes that define what outdoor storage is. You don't really see a whole lot which just say outdoor storage and don't define it. It's here's just been an undefined term.
Is this use consistent with the other definitions that you've seen?
The other definitions vary in terms of what's going on. They talk about storage of materials, and they also can be somewhat vague in terms of how they deal with it.
Well, again, if we're leaving the interpretation to this board, then I take a poll of the board and see where we are with it. I don't wanna see government getting involved in every step of the way. We don't need to go to the zoning board. Why are we going to the zoning board? It's a simple thing. It's just an interpretation. The size, that's a set thing, that I understand.
I'll acknowledge that in terms of, I think the town staff's interpretation has merit when
There's
when
an
it comes to
existing
that.
business, it's been, how many years have you guys been there?
2004.
How many?
20 years.
24 years. There's been no
20 years.
issues with it, the same stuff has been out there is what we're talking about. So now we're gonna say, now go to the zoning board after 24 years, you get an approval for it.
Well, and that kind of goes back to my original question on this, is that I'm looking at this thing, it's been there for so long.
Yes,
There's never been a complaint about it.
No,
The town hasn't had to do any kind of action.
No.
So therefore, by default, it meets whatever definition of development.
Becky, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, you're not anticipating a third shift at any point.
No. Wait, no.
And you're not gonna, how many people will be added for the new operation overall?
Not any immediately, it'll just depend on how the market goes. If we
Okay.
grow, then we'll add some, but yeah, not a third shift at this point.
Okay. Yeah, then,
I don't see a problem with outdoor storage there, and the staging area.
Okay, I feel the same way. Mark?
If it works, don't break it.
yeah,
It's a good interpretation. John?
Yeah, that's right, I agree with Mark.
So you want to, Joyce, I go, well, you prefer it went to the zoning board, I guess, but.
Yeah, I guess my hesitance there is just, if it's a way to limit it to the raw material of the steel that's there, and not, let's say, if there's a future expansion, all of a sudden there's a new product that they're looking to manufacture and requires some additional outdoor storage that is outside of what we're currently seeing there. You know, is there a way to say, yeah, it's outdoor storage because it's a raw material steel, instead of all of a sudden you see containers out there for something, and it should have been an enclosed storage space.
I don't, somehow it is a rough poll here, I'd say that towards the interpretation is.
If you can document that in some way for us, that would be great, so that we can take that, not necessarily take that to the bank, but take it.
We'll make a motion that the board make a determination for the ideal group subdivision that the outdoor storage be considered as a staging area.
Well, just call it outdoor staging.
Call it out as what?
Outdoor staging.
Outdoor
as opposed to-
staging, okay. Okay, that being a motion, I need a second.
Second.
I'll call the roll.
Mr. Shawnee?
Aye.
Mr. Coastal?
Aye.
Mr. Malton? Mr. Gardina? Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Gaskin?
Aye.
Mrs. Malton?
I,
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. And I assume that what this means is that we're authorized to go forward and put in a preliminary application. right?
Yes.
Ultimately, when we're ready.
Right, repeat that, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, he was talking to me, I didn't hear you.
Okay, okay. I just want to say, I assume that now we're authorized to go ahead, having gone through the concept, to deal with filing a preliminary application on this.
Yep.
Okay.
Are they still going to the zoning board for the expansion?
Yes.
We will need to go to the zoning board for expansion, whether we wind up doing that between preliminary and final, or do that before preliminary, I don't know at this point.
We'll get together, I'll be talking to Josh, and we'll see in regard to the board sending a letter in support of it,
We would appreciate it.
so we'll see where that goes.
Appreciate
All right, I
it.
guess that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll talk with we'll continue talking with our neighbors. As a matter of fact, that will start right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of the meeting minutes from February 4th, 2025.
I'll second it.
Any second, all in favor of the minutes?
I.
What do you think?
Okay, then we're done with the minutes. We're done. I guess that's it. We're all set. 9:30, so thanks for coming in this evening. Yeah, right.
EAN.
Oh, yeah.